This is not a scene from a disaster film, but an ordinary day on Filbert Street in San Francisco, one of the steepest streets in the world with a 31.5% grade. While adults cautiously search for a foothold, for the local children in 1952, it was just a free amusement ride. In 1970, Elvis Presley managed to get a meeting with President Richard Nixon to offer his services in the fight against illicit substances and to receive a federal agent's badge. The irony of the situation was that by that time, the king of rock and roll himself was already heavily dependent on prescription drugs. On the arm of this seasonal worker from Ohio in 1939 is tattooed his Social Security number, which had been introduced just 4 years earlier. For the generation of the Great Depression, this number on their body was the only guarantee of any support in their old age. The winter of 1952 on Donner Pass in California, where a massive snowstorm trapped a line of cars unprepared for such weather. These stylish Pontiacs and Chevrolets with their summer tires and weak heaters transformed from symbols of freedom into icy traps. Sophia Loren kisses her younger sister, Anna Maria, in 1955. A couple of years later, Sophia would leave to conquer Hollywood, and Anna Maria would marry the son of Benito Mussolini, forever linking her life with a prominent political name. In the early 60s, Ford introduced the Gyron concept car with futuristic wrist twist steering, which was intended to replace the steering wheel. The project was scrapped when engineers admitted that if the gyroscope failed, the car was guaranteed to fall on its side. Actress Jane Mansfield actively promoted her image as a flighty blonde in the 50s, but she had an IQ of 163. This ballet pose on pointe shoes was just part of a carefully crafted image that hid a sharp mind and knowledge of 5 languages. In 1957, a 4-ton snowcat named Rock and Roll dangled over a chasm, nearly ending the first ever trans-Antarctic expedition. The crew had to spend hours building a snow bridge, proving that in Antarctica, the most dangerous enemy is a road that doesn't exist. Actress Elizabeth Montgomery, the future star of the sitcom Bewitched, in her trailer, number 100 in the 60s. This image of a simple housewife with magical abilities brought her immense popularity, although in real life she was far from her on-screen character. Fashion designer Pierre Cardin, surrounded by his sketches of uniforms for nurses of the future, created in 1970. While the whole world was listening to Jimi Hendrix and wearing bell-bottoms, Cardin was already dressing medical staff for Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey. This is Hannah Stille Gorby, a woman born in 1746, 30 years before the founding of the United States. She witnessed the birth and development of an entire country, and this daguerreotype, taken around 1850, is the only photograph of a person from that era. The streets of Naples in the mid-20th century, where freshly made spaghetti was dried right out in the open on wooden racks. Before ending up in a pot, it absorbed all the city's flavor, from the sun to the road dust. Wembley Stadium is roaring with the Live Aid charity concert in 1985, and its organizer, Bob Geldof, is insistently whispering something to Princess Diana. At that moment, Prince Charles seemed to be the only person on the planet more interested in looking the other way. Marlene Dietrich performs for American soldiers in Normandy in the summer of 1944, just a few weeks after the D-Day landings. Hollywood glamour and acrobatic numbers on a temporary stage, while battles were still raging a few dozen kilometers away. This is actress Jean Tierney in the early 40s, whose slight overbite drove the entire male audience of America crazy. The Paramount Film Studio forced her to correct it, which everyone, including Jean herself, later regretted. Elvis and Priscilla Presley in their home in 1971, 2 years before their divorce. His blue suit and cane look like stage props, and her distant gaze says more than any interview. The king was already alone in his own palace. This is Margarita Carmen Cancino. Before Hollywood transformed her into Rita Hayworth, to become a star, she had to undergo a painful procedure to change her hairline and dye her hair red, proving that in the 40s, the path to the big screen lay through a complete change of identity. Queen Elizabeth II and Marilyn Monroe meet at a film premiere in London in 1956. Both are 30 years old here. One was born to rule an empire. The other created her own. And at that moment, the two main queens of the 20th century were on equal footing. This is Larry David, co-creator of the iconic sitcom Seinfeld in the 80s. It was he who came up with the script for the episode The Contest, which he was so afraid to show to the NBC executives that he kept the idea a secret until the last minute. And in the end, the episode was recognized as the best in sitcom history. The Christmas dinner of British soldiers in 1916, right in a shell crater on the Western Front. While Christmas trees were being decorated back home, here the holiday table was made of ammunition crates, and the only decoration was a small wooden cross. A McDonald's restaurant in the 80s, in an era before touchscreens and mobile apps. To place an order, you had to speak to a real person, and the only gadget on the counter was a cash register, which seemed to be the height of technology. Robert Wadlow, the tallest man in history at 272 centimeters, 8 feet 11 inches, in 1940, a few months before his passing. Due to gigantism, he continued to grow his entire life, and every centimeter that brought him closer to the record also shortened his days. This family photograph has been lying on the moon since 1972. Apollo 16 astronaut Charles Duke left it on the lunar surface as the most distant and touching family greeting in the entire universe. This is not Photoshop, but a real picture from a nature reserve where a chimpanzee named Anjana became a surrogate mother to 2 tiger cubs. While humans are sorting out their relationships, here a primate is bottle-feeding the cub of a predator that will be twice her size in a year. Backstage at a Led Zeppelin concert in Indianapolis, 1975. On stage, they were rock gods, shaking stadiums, and behind it, they were just ordinary guys at a table with paper cup, where the entire rider consisted of beer and Coca-Cola. Backstage in 1978, where Fleetwood Mac vocalist Stevie Nicks demonstrates her flexibility while the band is at the peak of its fame. On stage, she was a mystical enchantress, and backstage, she was a rock star who could easily do the splits in her boots. Times Square, New York, 1957, where a young couple walks past a neon sign for a honeymoon dance land. All of post-war America, with its hopes for a bright future and a simple family life, is captured in this one random shot. This is not a movie prop, but a real punt gun from the early 20th century, capable of taking down up to 50 birds on the water with a single shot. Its use led to the near-complete extermination of waterfowl and was banned as unsportsmanlike and barbaric hunting. The summer of 1948 in New York, when the only way to escape the heat in the concrete jungle was to jump into the Hudson River. While air conditioners were a luxury, local boys used the city's piers as a free and deadly water park. Winston Churchill in 1948, just 3 years after the victory in World War II, paints a landscape without taking the cigar out of his mouth. The man who controlled the fate of the world and gave orders to armies found his greatest solace in a simple set of paints and a canvas. A dining car in the 40s, when train travel was an event, not just a way to get from point A to point B. While America sped by outside the window, passengers sat at tables with snow-white tablecloths, proving that class and style could be found even on the road. February 7th, 1964, Kennedy Airport, New York. 4 lads from Liverpool waved to the crowd, not yet realizing that at this very moment, they ceased to be just a band and became a cultural phenomenon that launched the British invasion. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the only U.S. president elected 4 times, led the country through the Great Depression and World War II. Most Americans never knew that this man with an iron will and a firm voice spent all that time in a wheelchair. This is Kaiser Wilhelm II, the last emperor of Germany, whose image with a curled mustache and a shiny helmet became a symbol of an entire era. A few years after this picture was taken, the empire he ruled would collapse, and he himself would go into exile, living out his days in Holland. Actress Natalie Wood at her home in 1963. While on screen she was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, in real life she was constantly haunted by inner demons and a panic fear of water. This is Mai Musk in the 60s, long before her last name became associated with electric cars and space flights. In those years, she was a successful model in South Africa, proving that ambition and striking looks are hereditary in their family. Linda Carter on the set of Wonder Woman in the 70s. Even chained up, the most powerful woman on television did not lose her sense of humor, showing that behind the image of an invincible Amazon was a regular actress, tired from a long day of filming. Actress Sybil Shepherd in 1976, the same year Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver was released. While audiences watched the brutality of New York streets in the cinema, she remained an icon of 70s style, full of calm and elegance. Girl Scouts during World War I, collecting peach pits with a poster that reads, "You save the pits, they will save the soldiers' lives." These pits weren't for jam. They were used to make activated carbon for the filters and gas masks, saving thousands of lives on the front lines. These women with a piercing gaze are not just farmers from late 19th century Ireland. They are a generation that survived the Great Famine, witnessed mass emigration, and knew the price of life better than anyone else. Monica Bellucci in 1992, even before she became a global symbol of Italian beauty. Here she is just a budding model, but her gaze already holds that same confidence that would conquer world cinema a few years later. Sergeant Stubby, an ordinary stray dog who became the most decorated animal of World War I. He participated in 17 battles, warned of gas attacks, found wounded soldiers, and even single-handedly captured a German spy.